You know that? Ellie Mitchell?
Yes.
This is awkward. I'm here about Katie.
Hi, Sophia. Hi, Chris. How are you doing? Nice to see you.
How
Good,
are
nice to see
you?
you too.
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for speaking to me, and congratulations on the movie. It's quite a hard hit. I mean, my son's he just recently turned 16, so it was quite a hard hitter to watch this kind of imagining.
Mhm.
I mean, I put myself in that kind of position, and
Yeah.
it's quite a hard hitter. So I imagine before you even took that on, it must have been quite a daunting kind of to kind of imagine yourself, to picture yourself in that kind of position. I know, Chris, for example, you've got small kids, no? So it must have been quite a daunting task to kind of put yourself in that position, not just for the film, but kind of to put yourself in that position, having kids yourself, no, to kind of think about it and kind of take that homework home with you, no?
Mm.
Yeah, no, I think the idea of switched at birth strikes fear into, anyone who's a parent, and I think anyone in general, who has thought, maybe they don't look like their parents or like what uh you know, am I who I believe I am? Your child does not come with a DNA test. Nowadays they stay with you the whole time and there's bands,
Yeah.
but switched at birth is something that has happened. And, in the course of this, of working on this film, we did research into it and looked at it. It's just shocking how it can affect people for their whole lives, and it's shocking that it happens.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, I was looking, just kind of researching for the interview. I was looking myself if there were actually had been cases, and I was like two or three that did pop up, and I was quite curious what kind of things you discovered to kind of bring to your characters to kind of emote what these people go through when they did actually go through that kind of torment that they found out that they'd been a few years with someone that wasn't actually their physical daughter or son, but they couldn't negate the relationship that they shared because of the time that they'd spent with them. No, so I mean, for example, Sophia, what kind of things did you come across that you thought would kind of help in portraying what you had to go through in the film?
Absolutely. I think to your point, it is the idea that this could happen almost feels like an old wives' tale, right? It sounds like an urban legend, but as Chris said, we did a lot of research and this has happened to families. And I think for us, the real gift, having read the script and loving it, is that we had the source material. We had Adele Parks' best-selling novel. So there was even more of a world to explore in terms of these characters, their nuance, their way of being, their lives at large, and then to go into really researching what people go through, watching the old datelines and reading the stories of families this has happened to. One of the things that I was able to do, I have some friends who are just the most incredible parents, and they have adopted two children through the foster care system. And learning about that journey, it's the closest to anyone going through this that I know, because for years you are raising a beautiful kid as your own. You're jumping through hoops, you're doing all of the work, but you don't know if that kid's going to get to stay with you or not.
Sure.
It doesn't work as quickly as traditional adoption even does. And so to wrap my head around the the absolute limbo of how you can love your child and be terrified all the time helped me conceptualize having that experience happen almost like a car accident, which is what happens when Tom comes to Allie's door and shares this information with her. It's like a car wreck. Everything changes.
Yeah.
And the conflict of
Sorry.
this, I just want to say the conflict of this particular story also is very firmly rooted in the people's different and valid emotional reactions to
Mhm.
hearing this news. Some people say, you know what, I don't want to know this person. They're not my daughter. You're my daughter. Some people are saying, I want to meet this other person, but it doesn't matter. You're my daughter. Some people are saying, I have, an obsessive compulsive need to know and understand this person that is biologically from me. So you've got these three different attitudes like
Yeah.
slamming into each other in one of the most intimate ways you can imagine, and it's just ripe for vulnerability and conflict.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That brings me to my next question because Chris, your character Tom, he appears out of the blue, and like you said, Sophie, it's like a car crash. This news, but the fact that you have to bring this news to her front door. I mean, she could have just told you to get lost straight away, but the way that you kind of tell the story must have been really complex to kind of figure that out in your head before you went on before in front of the camera to do that. Because one thing is to tell the story and to read the script, but the other thing is to kind of to gain her trust and her empathy, which I can't even imagine how you kind of went about portraying that, because it comes across really well in that scene.
Thank you. Yeah, we learn more about Tom as the story goes on, but he really, I mean, I have to say, he really does believe that he's coming from a well-intentioned place, and I believe that comes through mostly in the beginning when he wants to meet Katie, but he's being respectful of their space. We learn to doubt the truth a little bit as the story unfolds, but
Mhm.
I really do believe he showed up on their doorstep with the right idea in
With good
mind.
intentions, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Likewise, there's a beautiful scene. Obviously, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a beautiful scene where the two families come together, and there's these two daughters who are they got mixed up at the hospital, which is not a
Yeah.
spoiler. That must have been. I'm really curious how you kind of brainstormed how you would approach that, because it's not just the script there. There's the looks at the table, the way the two sisters might look at each other, the daughters, sorry, they would look at each other, those kind of things. I mean, that must have, I'm curious how you approach that, because that must have been really quite one to kind of get your head around with all the families together around the same table. Now, it must have been quite a
Yeah.
difficult scene to approach, no?
Well, certainly, and what I'll say is we're just two of the cast members of such an exceptional cast of actors. Chris Johnson, who plays my husband, Amaya, Grace, all of the kids. We we were so lucky to have people who all were willing to walk in a room and expose their feelings and their vulnerabilities and their nervousness. And I think it plays so well because we had Jeff, our wonderful director, leading the charge, and the ways he wanted to block the scenes, the suggestions that he made about moments we could share, who would be passing what food and maybe not know that someone didn't like to eat something, and how you kind of prepare to be on your best behavior, which then makes you behave like a nervous, bumbling wreck. All of these things we talked about and rehearsed and worked so that they could be as specific as possible and yet feel spontaneous.
And adding to that, the casting was fantastic.
Mhm.
Obviously, everyone's ability is to be spoken very highly of, but physically,
Yeah.
Amaya is blonde. Sophia and Chris both had dark hair. And that scene with Chris and Grace,
Oh,
God, she looks like his daughter, or could be
right?
his daughter. And they're both interested in literature. And it's such a beautiful bonding scene. You're like, yes, they are so similar in so many ways. And like, whereas, it's like I'm a big guy, once athlete, and Amaya's out there cheering, and she's an athlete, and we have similar facial features. So
Mhm.
so just like when you say pictures that worth 1,000 word, that in of itself does a lot to tell that story.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
Yes. So
It's a
hats
little bit out
off
of
to
time
our
now. Give me the
director
wrap.
and our
Yeah, no,
casting
definitely. It's a
people
fantastic
too.
show. Mhm.
Exactly.
Listen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the film. It's really, really good. I can't wait for people to see it next week.
Uh,
And I hope to speak to you again sometime soon, guys. All the very
Thanks,
best.
Howard.
You too.
All right, have a good day. Take care. Bye now.
Bye.
Why are you doing this to me?
I feel like every choice I'm making is wrong. Everything is unraveling.
She's not back?
No.
I'm worried she ran away.
My whole life is a lie.
I can't trust anyone.
What the hell is this? Katie, we love you.
He's getting out of here. Stay away from her.